will be speaking with Guy Albino, aka Devin Flynn of the Hawd Gankstuh Rappuhs MCs with Gats and founding member of the Shapeshifters. And we'll be talking with Eldon, aka Eldon Summers of Ruby Yacht. I will go on a rant about melodramatic rapping, and I have a ton of music recommendations. I've been digging pretty thoroughly lately, and I've found tons of stuff I maybe should have added to the best of list from last year. A lot of stuff that's just coming out now. And let's begin with today. Just today, I found Wet Jet Seymour out of Indianapolis. Amazing lyrics. This guy's a true poet. Most of his songs are lamentations about how addicted he is to pot. I'm not sure. I haven't properly absorbed it at all, but the guy only has 3 Twitter followers, including myself. So I just want to plant my flag right now and say, Weird Rap told you first, Wet Jet Seymour he's going to be big. I think he's a true great and just needs to be discovered. So check out Wet Jet Seymour. He's got tons of music on Bandcamp.
The trash of an addict, my backpack on the average. Pulled over with the dab rig, high crashing. But no accident, involved just a stoned accent clash. Tickets replace the arrest, cops high off my stash. Ride on the glass to be late for class. That never matters when the bomb is on the ass. Behind the mesh is a torture rack from the voice drowning. Drown self in the clear rivers. Rest stop, roll up, drip or ketchup. No sharing stress dabs. How about that rosin? Behind the mesh is a torture rack from the voice drowning. Drown self in the clear rivers. Rest stop, roll up, drip or ketchup. No sharing stress stabs with a parting comb. This Mary Burns in a parking cone.
Okay, Gay Guevara, another person I had never heard of until yesterday, I think, and they've got some really awesome stuff, kind of a revolutionary political leftist slant out of their work. This There Will Be No Super Slave album from last year is the one that I would recommend people begin with.
Worldwide through the broadband, had this world flip like a headstand. Running with them Rants, feel like Busy Bones, Highland. And niggas talking scars like it's cool to be called lacking. I don't do that rap shit, bitch, I learned from martyrs. Why would I pray for your city when niggas be whipping the Zoes at the border? How was your hood in the drop, but you talking about how your chain be the water? Rap game like Jamaican spots, y'all should be out of order. Heard you so the spirit, I can feel it, hear it in your lyrics. Rap is disappearing, but the money keep on coming in. December to Savimbi niggas eerie for the coverage. Susceptible to set to see me yo with no surprise.
Hey, where the bitches at? It's supposed to be titties. Where the fucking titties? And the bitches.
Okay, I've been going down a bit of a rabbit hole with younger artists, I would say, kids raised on death grips and pop music from the last 10 years. They're mashing it all up into these pretty wild combinations. Rural Internet is one of the groups I found in this vein.
There's no savior left in this motherfucking land. Give violence a chance. Give violence a chance. Give violence a chance. Give violence a chance. Courses I'm waiting through nothing is safety. It's time with the handkerchief inside the any proof. I just keep getting through. Look what they made of you. You can't be black because I'm running blue. You on the sideline, you residents residue.
They're a multinational group, including a couple of Australians, I believe. In Australia, I've found has really been making some very interesting stuff in this sort of type of sound that I'm trying to discuss right now, which is this, if you've heard of the term hyper pop, which is just mashing up all kinds of crazy electronic and various genres into like pop music. I would call this stuff hyper rap. Journalists, we love to label things, so sorry. Besides rural internet, some of the other Australian stuff that I've been really into lately is Teether. I mentioned Teether and Real Name, their album that came out recently. Teether has another, it's a collaboration between him and Kuya Neal. This album is called Stressor.
Cash, we could get it all bill. If we get the grant, we could get it on film. If we had cash, we could get it all bill. If we got the grant, we could get it on film. Drifted like Tokyo, nose wide. I'm a black guy, Pinocchio. I got plans, I'm not gonna go. No time, shrimp life in my pheromones. No time, all that gravity is gotta go. Any pandering is stored inside the collarbone. Rambling again, I'm not a lot of code. With my family and them, cut it to the bone. My analysis instead was still holding on.
Those guys are coming out of Melbourne. Let's see, I found Super Ego out of Fremantle, Australia. Their last project came out in 2020, but apparently they're working on some new music now. And I'll definitely be looking forward to hearing that. This is off of their album Nautilus. Yeah, I was finding more Australian stuff too. I think if you search for Crash Blossoms, that's a way that you'll find a lot of the interesting stuff coming out of the US and Australia. Various other countries, I believe, are involved in this collective Crash Blossoms. A2B2 Records is another one that I came across recently. This is a label started a couple years ago by Andy Morin, who is a member of Death Grips. The stuff that they've been putting out definitely is somewhat reminiscent of Death Grips, a little bit more varied, I would say, though. Certainly weird rap music. They released something by Death Insurance. I think that was the first release that they put out sometime last year. I actually had the pleasure of seeing Death Insurance play in Portland last summer. Had never heard of them before, but I was pretty taken by this cute little girl rapping over some of the most monstrous beats you could imagine, just like a big kind of mutant mishmash of electronic, noisy stuff. Like most of the artists I'm talking about in this sort of vein of extreme Death Grips influenced rap music, it sounds like these people could seriously use some therapy. Like, they all sound nihilistic and depressed, and you know, I hope they get help, but I'm here for the music. Sonically, it definitely speaks to me. Another project that A2B2 Records has released recently is Abacia. This is a group based out of Philadelphia, and Philadelphia also has a lot of interesting stuff that I've been coming across lately. But yeah, this 3-track EP by Abacia called Fugazi, that is where I would recommend people begin.
Niggas lie, I'm a lie for my God. gods. And on Bible disgrace to the motherfucking gods. Women lie, niggas lie, I'ma lie for my God. And on Bible disgrace, mama, I'm sorry, I'm lying to God. Who's with the root? You licking the boot. Politicking with the big wigs. Sitting pretty on my loot. Spirit cooking arcade with a boot. The people looking so I throw up a fist. Disappearing like I'm going to win. Shit running with a deuce. Heard a whistle not the sing of a kettle. Suicide him if you think you're a rebel. You should go surveilling the kettle. The visible strings are picking your battle. I rip through the curtains and pick through the fire.
They've also released a new album called Red Room, which is quite intense, but I recommend that one as well. Yeah, these guys, they seem very troubled, but what can you expect for a young person growing up in our world today? Things are looking grim, so. A2B2, I think the most recent thing that they've been working towards releasing, I don't think the album has come out yet, but they've released a single for this artist called Claro, spelled all weird, ORA77K. That's how you spell that.
Every shot switch, like how could I miss you? This off in a bucket like Bieber and shit. I cross you like country, no visa and shit. Offer me one decent reason and shit. You soft as a cushion, these niggas my pets. A boss and a wrestle, a beagle, a bit. You coughing a lump from a keek and a split. I talk with my tongue and my cheek and a list. I'm mobbing like suddenly deep cause they deep. Woke up from their sleep and agreed I'm the shit. Gotta get rich, just another drop in a bucket, just another drop in a bucket, just another drop in a bucket. I cock it and pull it, I've been on my shit. Not a republic, I sleep when I slip. Birds on the same power line with. They we compare with, just look at our shit. Look at her, look at her.
I recommend people check out A2B2 Records if any of this is intriguing to you. Now, moving on to like some more adult music, I will say. I've really been looking forward to what I guess is considered the debut solo album of Sketch 185. I first heard of him through the group Tomorrow Kings out of Chicago. Amazing vocalist, amazing lyricist. He's got a new album out on Backwoods Records, produced by Jeff Markey, and it is great. It's called He Left Nothing for the Swim Back.
I was born in 85, but feel like 97 just. Pinning anthems to a burning century as the scenery erupts. Today's special's the depth of laundry. Reality augmented what's spoiling the scene. With more songs about spaceships than loyalty. And don't kill your idols, let them crash on your couch, it does the same thing. Still awakened with hands hurting from years of demanding you kiss the ring. And we only argue with family around here. Despite your claim, you're found here. Perhaps the dream is ghetto to you, but my rifle just found deer. And that's the thing about it. That's the sting about it. He left nothing for the swim back, but created his monuments for when the time comes and they forget how to sing about it.
I should have mentioned this last time, but I let it slip by. Shame on me, because Mero is, I believe, one of our greatest active MCs, and his latest album, Fission 2, is quite a collection of songs. Almost all collab songs with other pretty great MCs, but Mero himself, I think, is the star of this thing. He is just got one of the greatest voices in rap and excellent lyrics, excellent delivery. He is certainly one to watch for in the future, I would say.
It's Greg Brown, Blood Eagle toolkit. Like feel the lung feeble, feel grit. Only a few trips reach me. Brainstorm the gray matter beyond good and evil. Nietzsche over your head, I packed the Fiji. Know the ledge, you fatter fact search, get math for 3D. Now go slack the Ouija. Unreal, the one real mule kick easy. Beat the CB, the ammo BB. You can't change the channel, cancel endangered species. And all standard treaties. Command device, slow bicycle ETs over snow globe, icicle freezes. Bridges the tunnel vision.
Okay, another thing I want to mention that I missed. I mean, I listened to it when it came out. I was kind of excited by the singles I'd heard. This is Sampa the Great's new album, As Above, So Below. A lot of this album is just a little too pretty for me. Like, I don't like this lush, melodic, harmonic stuff unless it has like some elements of grit in it. but I think there's enough invention and interesting stuff on this album that I still want to mention it. About half of the songs I really like, and it's also rare that I talk about any music by dickless artists, so I thought I would mention As Above, So Below by Sampa the Great.
Let them hate, throw what's up, say what's up. In my bag, switching lanes, fuck a beef. Eat my greens, get the green, wanna leave. Don't ever say I switched the style. Running from the negativity, I throw it out. Even when they shouting, I know I'ma shut them down. They be in your face and always tryna put you down. Even when you are the reason they life turn around. It's not the kids, it's not a job, it's not the place. You're looking like Eve, I hear you sound, look at your face. I'm glad at ease, I know you inspired, there's no regrets. Still on my eat, still on my shot in your face.
Another dickless rapper, if I'm saying the name correctly, it is Carmen Diasia. Another artist that really deserves a lot more attention. She is an MC from Spain, a singer mixing, I don't know what it is, like kind of maybe traditional like flamenco styles with rap. I don't really speak very good Spanish, but my friend in Spain said that their lyrics are really good. So yeah, their album La Herida is definitely worth checking out.
Papeles con tinta, sábana mojada. Estoy recogiendo del suelo mi braga. Tenía 18 con un ala atrofiada. Romance kinky y tú eras mi palanca. Mi casa tiene nubes en la cara. Cuando parpadea, abre y cierra mi ventana. Le miro como una niña a un bote de mermelada.
There will be links to all of this stuff in the show notes. And yet another album that I kind of overlooked when it came out last year, Can't Find the Remote by Haze One, out of San Jose. Pretty great album. I don't know why I overlooked it the first time. Check it out.
Hold eternity in an hourglass. Moment will pass, and then all of a sudden the contradictions will laugh at you. Reconcile with your mind state. Devour the broken hearts for breakfast, but the tall glass of ice cold heartlessness. With a conundrum stuck like paper in a peculiar predicament. Delusionally ungluing itself to the field of contaminant. Glimpse of poetic, noetic truth. It was the sense that you're tapping into the id. I was tapping behind the ID specimens. Eternity was staring back at you.
Now, Illuminated Paths, record label based out of Florida, has just released part 1 of their 4-part series called Noob Saibot. All produced by the label owner, Josh. He goes by various other names. This first installment has Cool Keith, 10-Headed Skeleton, Micah 9, a bunch of other people. And it looks like there's about like 60 or so different artists that are going to be featured all in all on all 4 of these projects.
They should be ringing the fist that is. They should be ringing the bells, the alarms, the telephones. They should be ringing in clear madness. This must be more than Christmas. No test this litmus at the front desk. One spreadsheet in churches, cathedrals, fireworks, dinners, delicious alerts, witnesses. My name's a bell ringer, not quite the felt singer. On the liberty of the boiler room cells on the reps of toil. Sipping from the soil, blue serpent, bell flowers, head conditions and pills. Medical checkup reveals lots of influence and now foil by intermission of steam vibrating shining.
Another Illuminated Paths release that came out at the end of last year is Monster. That's the name of the EP. The artist is some Japanese characters that I have no idea what they say. So that will be linked in the show notes.
Habiti ni kai kai kana moto za sare tsune kubi kada le haga ne uchi da ho
かは見られた神からが彩るあざ朝も夜もない照らされた薄くない部屋のライトコツコツ近づく乾いた足元ヘイト向こうから投げ込まれた短パンとヘッドこの場から去ることはできないサルバドール誰もたまぐりと海岸みたいな
And another huge compilation project. This has 48 fucking songs on it. So I haven't listened to it all yet, but I do have 2 instrumental tracks on it. And it sounds really great so far for what I have heard of it. Very interesting, weird rap music and a lot of instrumental music. This is called Apotheosis by New Cocoon. That is the collective, which I've been part of for years, based primarily in Hawaii, but features members from all over the world. If you've heard of Staple Mouth or Wormhole, these guys kind of characterize the dark, abstract sound of New Cocoon. And Apotheosis is a free compilation on Bandcamp.
Sneaking with a whisk, secret great goose, tripping on shit, asking his into a scotch clip. Well, this bitch be bumping the night, high as a kite, watch me get running, motherfucker, pull the shot against slide. Go fast and half, jump away, blast, and up and down the glass lamp. Blast with lace slugs, my barrels displays, but delete the marks, like a breath to get a taste of my racing capacity. What you wanna guess? Fuck a real little hole, get you comes through a band, crack a baby too loose, I'm a deuce to the shot, like running fast. Tilted layers of fool's gold, cool in your soul. Hollowing it out like bullet tips, empty your pockets and split.
Okay, Ono Capono. I've been aware of this guy for a while, but it finally just clicked for me with his new album, Concrete Fantasia, which is not even my favorite of his albums. As I've gone back through his discography, I'm really enjoying all of it, but he's got a very interesting kind of mixture of grime influence, as he is from London. Then it's this kind of clash of happy, sunny, psychedelic sort of vibes and gloomy graveyard kind of vibes, running the gamut from like early De La Soul to trap music and horrorcore, but really tastefully woven together in this unique way that I don't think you'll find anywhere else. So I've really been enjoying Ono Capono's whole discography, which is rather deep, rather overwhelming, but Concrete Fantasia is the newest one.
Psycho, then I know I can't get away. Trapped in the black mist, burned by the flame. Pain, every day's for the same. I'll be on the run to the sun, it won't change. Running to the forest, trying to escape the night. With the 4 horsemen, trying to erase my life. Then they wanna come along with the stage to fight. I'll get on my side, this is the end of the times. Hellfire wanna rain down on me. Blood stay far as that I can see. I'll be on the trap like I'm not free. Steady with the thought, blood side for the fear of the drop of the tape, but staring in the black mirror. Face for the soul with the horseman to follow. Got the level to be living up in the morrow.
Death IRL. Shout out to Gary Suarez and the Cabbages newsletter that turned me on to this group out of New Jersey. I don't know anything about them except they have this recent album, Fresh Flowers for Ill Fruit Part 2.
Walking out of bed with something wrong in my head. Woke up on the wrong side of my mind, of my meds. Try to find a shine, the glittery gold kind, but it's all fool's gold when you're stuck in the coal mine. Bigger picture, we live inside of a fishbowl. Swimming in a circle, we living life in the hypno. Ships in the shitter, we surf the swirl when it sinks slow. Need a girl with curls who cook curry and kiss slow. Walking in the rhythm, counting down by the minute. I got a patent on procrastinating, gotta admit it. I gotta find myself worth in the fur and the fitted. I got rent on the first, bills on the third, so I might Chick-fil-A.
All right, I got a lot more recommendations. I'll leave you with just one more at this point. It's Shook World by, technically, the artist's name is King Vision Ultra. That's aka Gang of PTP, hosted by Algiers, which is a band that I've been following for a little while now. It's hard to describe this album, but basically, I guess Gang sampled a bunch of Algiers music from their forthcoming album, and he got some great MCs to rap on it and glued it all together with sound collage and field recordings and stuff. And it is a very unique, beautiful, experimental rap album. Features Big Juss, Elucid, and some other great rappers that I had never really heard before. So yeah, I would definitely strongly recommend that one.
Limited existence, stripping thrown in the wind. Many been cheated out, a chance lifted right out of skin. With no warning how grim. No survival of the fittest, forced to get it on my own. Cause helping hands always wanna stick their fingers in it. Helping hands always wanna stick their fingers in it. Helping hands always wanna stick their fingers in it. Helping hands always wanna stick their fingers in it. Fingers in it.
Like I said, I have a lot more stuff I want to recommend. I'm going to save it for the bonus episode. I am going to do a new segment, which is music that I like that's not rap. Young Fathers put out a new album recently called Heavy Heavy. I wasn't really a fan of their last one, but this most recent one is a little more raw, and I recommend it.
I wonder, is it true, or is it what you meant? The damage is done, but there's ringing in my head. The desert storm is approaching from the land. I guess no sleeps, no eats, and no rest. Covered in violence with love around my neck. Life is so boring when you're already the best. What's the story when you go beyond the edge?
Place an image in your head, with silver in your eyes. I'm no longer having such a terrible time.
Holy moly, you better take your chance. I'm here for one and only. No procrastinating. Holy moly.
I have some more non-rap stuff that I'll recommend in the bonus episode because there's too much other stuff to talk about. All right, what you just heard was the track Head from the album Don't Be No Hero and You Will Live Long by Eldon, who I talked to in person backstage at his show in Sacramento last month when he was opening for Rap Ferreira and AJ Suede. And here is our talk. So, what's your musical history? Because I only heard the one album from 2019. Were you doing music a lot before that?
Yeah, I've been doing music since I was a kid, really, like writing little raps. But I started doing like grime when I was like 14, 15.
Okay, wow. Can we find any of this online?
There's a couple. There's one video that exists in my old bedroom.
What was the name under? Same name?
Oh nah, you gotta do the digging for that. If you find it, more power to you. You gotta dig for that.
All right. I'll just mention here, I spent over an hour testing my internet sleuthing abilities to find any trace of Eldon's grime career, but I failed. Although in my searching, I did find like a 10-minute long suite of music by Eldon that I hadn't found anywhere else, and it is called Wigwam. If you search on YouTube for Eldon Wigwam, you will find this and some other interesting things.
Hard to miss. It's them two-head artisans. 5 brief spaces for witching and wizard craft. I turn it loose now cause it's a laugh. Roll with sticks this car. Roll up and brick your glass. Cause they split the bits in half.
Straight dumpy hours.
I suppose it had sunken in. We had to run from him. I was a youngin', too young to know he had put those hands on my mum and she kept it hidden from her son.
And then around 2012, when I moved to London, started really getting into rap, as opposed to the grime stuff.
Okay.
And kind of started taking it more seriously from that point.
Can you tell me, like, what age you were then when you moved to London?
20.
Okay, and when you say paying attention to rap, what were you listening to at that time?
Oh, man. I guess, like, Kendrick was big.
Mm-hmm.
J. Cole was super big. Drake was really big. That was, like, the triumvirate. And then, like, all the classic stuff, all the 90s stuff. Mobb Deep.
But this is what,
Busta Rhymes.
10 years ago we're talking about?
Yeah, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Right.
Like,
but before that, you were mostly into British grime.
Yeah. I mean, I was always listening to hip hop. My dad's a DJ.
Yeah. You probably always heard the American imports.
Yeah, like a lot of R&B as well. Though my mum was super into like Mary J. Blige and like that kind of stuff. But then also like a lot of rare groove, a lot of soul.
Yeah.
And then also a lot of like jungle. My parents were kind of like. My parents were. Well, my pops more than my mum, but they were ravers. So my first kind of like favorite songs were like jungle tape packs, like that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
So a solid mix of stuff.
Yeah, London's got a great mix of genres and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, because like when I kind of stopped doing grime, I kind of got into dubstep, and that was less like bars. That was more just like. You're toasting, right? Like in the Jamaican style, you're kind of just like contextualizing the music, especially if you're in a crowd. Like I used to MC at raves and stuff, and then when that kind of, I was less into what was happening with that. Started getting back into hip hop more.
You say you're in Bristol now.
Yes.
Like, what about Tricky? Because he's someone that kind of like.
Yeah, Tricky is a legend.
Yeah.
Tricky is a legend, but I don't think I went to Tricky for like rap.
Yeah, but you heard him, right?
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't super into Tricky.
Okay.
But I've heard Tricky. You know.
I guess no one likes to be compared to other artists, but I did hear a certain similarity, not necessarily like a specific similarity, but just a similarity in like a mixture of genres.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely someone who's not afraid to kind of get open.
Yeah.
And I definitely am not afraid to do that either.
Yeah.
I definitely lean into that.
All right, but enough about other people, I guess. Let's talk about you. Yeah. So like, how did you start gravitating towards this more like poetic style?
Definitely through hearing like the Milo stuff, Open Mike Eagle, and then just kind of went from there and was like, oh, there's this whole other world, and then kind of through that getting into, you know, the Freestyle Fellowship stuff and anti-pop. But I think I was heading in that direction because I was just incorporating other styles of music into my rap. So I was like heavily into Blood Orange. Still am. I love Dev Hines. I'm in love with Dev Hines. And just thinking about new ways of writing, because obviously coming from grime, it's just like just bars. And realizing that you can stretch that out.
So again, the 2019 album is all I really know of your stuff. I guess I've heard you on the Ruby Yacht album, but what really caught my ear was when I heard that album just not too long ago. For someone that, like me, that's found that and is really into it, I love it. Like, is there more of that stuff? Can I find any more music before or after that? Where's the rest of your music?
It's coming. I have a record that I'm just finishing up right now with Olaf.
Pops told me, man, who you lay down with, it's only now I embrace the severity. Heavily engraved stones are often thrown in the face of brevity. A race is thrown in homes made of tones. They ain't catch but one case. Dangle the creator off the roof of the tape. That was for exploiting my beautiful race. Colluding with snakes and moving in place. Dancing feet.
But also, I've got a crew in Bristol called Cold Light.
Cold Light.
And we've got a tape out.
Alright. Cool.
Live.
What's that called?
Live at the Laundromat. And that's on Bandcamp. You can get that on Bandcamp.
Okay, I'll check that out.
And that's a whole other style too. So that's like a band. So it's Withdrawn, Birthmark, and myself. And we've got horn player, producers, rappers.
How would you describe the sound?
That's a good question. It's weirdo rap. It's poetic rap. It's kind of gangster. It's dingy, but it's beautiful.
Cool. Is there more vocalists besides yourself, or just you?
Yeah. So there's 2 other vocalists, 1 guy on sax.
Cool.
Yeah, and we do a lot of stuff with a guy called Best Available Technology, who's like a Portland, Oregon legend.
So fuck grams, I'm only moving in keys. If your man needs some manners, man, I'll teach him with ease. These streets were bleeding, I was still grieving over a man who hit the bottom. And went and talked himself, raising toasts off the highest shelf. Drank to life, I never had the time for health. I used to buy and sell, bomb supreme clientele. Until the silence fell, and started writing, well, I guess the rest is history. Nah, they never found that witness, G. I always did dig a mystery. I used to be a pro with 2, swept a road of fools for fool's gold. An empty billfold, started Cold Light, and left that shit on the roadside.
We got another record coming out as well.
Okay.
That's coming soon.
Yeah, I was like just asking you how to describe your band. I was trying to describe your album. What's it called again?
Don't Be No Hero, and You Will Live Long.
And You Will Live Long. Yeah, man. It's a hard album to describe.
Right? That's why it's a funny question, because I'm like, well, just play it.
Yeah. I won't ask you to, unless you...
Nah, I mean,
I
can kind of like... It's interesting. That album came out of me actually going back to grime. I know it's going to sound funny. Around kind of 2017, grime was kind of having another one of its comebacks. It always does. It goes away for a while, it comes back. And I was like, I feel like there's so much room in grime to kind of push it in a new direction without just kind of remaking the older stuff. So I was making all these weird grime records. I did like 6 or 7, and I was like, oh, I feel like I want to do a record. But it wasn't so much vocals that I was doing when I was kind of, that album was bubbling. It was more like I wanted to make beats that I thought were kind of like a different direction for grime.
Well, I always appreciated grime just for how boundary pushing and experimental, like the beats themselves were, and then the vocals, the technique was so high, you know, there was like a lot of work.
Well, that's what I always thought too. So when people were kind of just remaking old stuff, I was like, nah, we could do more with this, with this format that we have. And like I say, I started doing that, but then my brain was just like, oh, actually, I'm doing a whole bunch of other stuff. Let me just make this a record. So the first track, Esco, is named after grime MC who passed away.
Okay.
But if you listen to that beat, that's a grimy beat. But I wasn't spitting grime on it. I was doing some weird vocals on it.
There's not even drums on that track, is there?
There's no drums on that track. So you got, in grime, you had a style that originally was called like a devil mix, which is where they took the drums out.
Okay.
And it was just the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
That's where I was taking my stuff. I didn't have a lot of drums on them.
Nice.
And just making like kind of almost ambient stuff, but like kind of with that grimy kind of tinge.
That's cool.
And it just blossomed out into what you hear.
So, the new stuff, is it a similar direction, or what can we expect?
I have some stuff that's more in that direction. I'm working on 4 or 5 records. The Olaf stuff is more kind of raps, some singing in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got ambient records. I've got records with Bristol Crew, which is kind of like ambient rap, but also there's heavy beats on there too. It's difficult to kind of anchor what I'm doing to a particular style.
You can hear some more of me and Eldon in the bonus episode at patreon.com/weirdrap. And this is a rant that I felt compelled to record last week. Take it for what it's worth. I want to express how I feel about a lot of rap music, a trend that seems to have been growing gradually, probably since as far back as, even LL Cool J was probably one of the first, like, quote-unquote emo rappers, you know, who talked about his feelings in this very dramatic way, which usually for me falls very flat and seems fake. It seems like an attempt to gain people's sympathy and attention. It's like, people that really like lean into their sadness and their tears in order to impress people somehow. And I hate it. It seems like it's something that was popularized further by things like Slug of Atmosphere, even people like Kanye West, even Eminem, who was more of like angry. But it's very rare that I think someone can write about these emotions and make them feel real. And that's just written words. When you're adding voice acting or any kind of a voice to the words, it becomes very easy to go into the territory of exaggerating the emotion to the point where it becomes melodramatic. And I have a very thin skin for this kind of stuff. I think a lot of people are less sensitive to it than I am. For whatever reason, I mean, I could say that possibly it's because I dealt with extreme grief and tragedy at a young age, and I feel like I'm in touch with it to the point where I don't think it's anything special that people have experienced pain. Everyone deals with death and tragedy eventually. And also, it's just gross. It just seems just so fake and sad to like try to gain people's attention or sympathy in some way by exaggerating your pain. It's like energy vampire shit. And I hate it. And I hear it in a demo that was just sent to me. I hear it in very popular music throughout the ages. And I just think it's worth putting a spotlight on it because I want to tell people, stop fucking doing it. It sucks. Thank you. And this next part of the show is an interview which will act as a prelude to the multi-part oral history of circus and the shapeshifters, which we will gradually be presenting on this podcast. Pedestrian and myself have endeavored to document the genius gonzo rapper Circus, and by extension, his crew, the Shapeshifters. And that's a story which includes the Los Angeles graffiti scene and many of LA's greatest underground MCs, producers, DJs, etc. This interview is with Devin Flynn, and Devin is not only an original co-founder of the Shapeshifters, but he is an important part of LA's early graffiti scene, and an accomplished animator and gallery artist, but he is also the previously anonymous MC known only as Guy Albino of the mysterious, ridiculous group Hawd Gankstuh Rappuhs MCs with Gats. This interview marks the exclusive unveiling of Guy Albino's true identity. This was a mystery to me for decades. I was trying to find out who is behind this weird group. Our talk spans decades and covers all sorts of interesting territory that I think any fan of hip-hop will find engrossing. So here we go. This is myself with Pedestrian speaking to Devin Flynn, a.k.a. Guy Albino. All right, let's work our way through your early graffiti foundation to forming Shapeshifters.
Yeah,
and how
let's talk about
CBS
that. So me and two other graffiti writers, one of them was like incredibly well known for inventing the heaven, where you climb up onto the freeway sign and you bomb the back of it. Very dangerous. Probably the scariest thing you could ever do. And they call it heaven because when you're up there, supposedly it feels like you're in heaven. You're standing over the cars and they're driving under you. And he wrote Sir, and he was like my best friend at the time. And like he was obsessed with hip hop. Me and him were like fucking tenaciously like learning every lyric of every song and like driving up to San Francisco to go see Kool Keith perform and like rapping at each other and like listening to like, you know, like All Sold Out by Pete Rock, the first EP, memorizing the whole EP and just like rapping at each other while driving up to San Francisco. Maniacs, like ultramagnetic maniacs. Like I basically had like Critical Beatdown memorized, like any shit like that. Masters of Ceremony, early Grand Poobah, like all the fucking lyricists, like the dudes that were like, or even like Nice and Smooth. We love Nice and Smooth. We all memorized their lyrics. So me and him were just fans, just nerds for hip hop.
Was he a West Side guy?
He was, yeah.
So was he claiming the crew at that time?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So
He was
Sir
in like
what?
Sir, West Coast Artist, which was like one of the biggest crews, and kind of my crew's rivals, but not like on purpose. But some guys were very kind of antagonistic towards us. But we were like laid back, whatever. We didn't care. But there were some guys that I knew were trying to take us out and be like,
So
fuck
do you
those
think
guys.
West Coast Artists like WCA was that like the first like big graph crew in LA? You think?
Like I said, there is controversy between the LA Bomb Squad and K2S, which is connected. And this is like straight up history. LA Bomb Squad was Crime, this guy Rick, and K2S was founded by Crime and Prime, who was his like younger protege, who was very talented and like incredibly fucking charismatic and cool, kind of a leader type of dude. And he started K2S and brought a bunch of other guys in, and they were all good. So they were like the real LA like Chicano crew. Like they claim this is real LA. We don't have New York influence. And their style's very different. It looks kind of boxy and kind of like designy and flat in a way that like New York graffiti is loose and kind of like flowing and stuff like that. So that would be the East Side guys. And then WCA, KSN, which was my crew, and Young Lords, which was like Soon, and this guy Legit's crew. And they predate both of our crews.
So were
WCA
did they name themselves after like the Puerto Rican revolutionary cats, the Young Lords? from
Yeah,
Chicago
I'm sure
and
he
LA?
did. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure that the dude legit knew about that. Yeah. He was an LA guy, and Soon was the dude I mentioned from New York. And so those, I would say, for me, are the like original crews. There's probably a few other ones, and people are probably angry, like, you didn't mention my crew, fuck you. LTS. Yeah.
What did
Couple other
LTS stand
crews.
for?
Last to serve. Last to serve. Yeah. And they were like mid-city, south, central crew. And my buddy Lance, who was also in West Coast Artists, was friends with all of them. So I had a bridge. I could be cool with everybody because I had one friend in each crew that we were really tight. You know, even with West Coast Artists, like all those guys, we've been friends since we were like 13. All went to junior high school together. So when it kind of broke off, it was like caused by other people that weren't there that early on. They're like later, but kind of became megalomaniacal and were like, we need to be the kings and we need to take them out. Like, but we didn't think that way. You know,
So
we're
where,
just like,
where were you guys like getting up, or like even like the folks earlier than you, like Where were folks getting up for the most part?
I mean, a lot of times you'd be on the bus. People would be destroying the buses on the insides and the outsides, magnums on the inside, and then fucking painting on the outside. Or just like giant mean streaks on the outside. Big, like, what they call marsh markers, which is like you just stuff a fucking, like, rag in the tip or like a fucking eraser into the tip of a giant marsh bottle and just fucking kill, you know. And that ink does not come off.
So like less like train stations and shit, though.
Yeah, I mean, bus stops. You know, Hollywood Boulevard was a perfect spot for everyone to meet up because it was kind of like our grand concourse. Because there were a couple stops like Hollywood and Highland. A lot of buses stopped there. So writers would get into fights there. There would be like lots of cross-out wars there. There was a lot going on, kind of like, you know, LA is a very sort of like isolated city. Like people don't run into each other that much. But that could happen there. The one bus and the 181 and like the 217, they all met right there. So
it was different from New York in that way because it wasn't like the train stops. Like
you're not going to run into people as quickly, and we don't have trains to paint. So that's why yards became the thing. Which, you know, a lot of people make fun of LA because it's like, oh, yards, you just hang out in a fucking like empty lot and paint all day. But that's how it evolved, and why like LA style has a lot more kind of like detail. And like kind of like the drawing prowess kind of improved. Not that New York, I mean, some of those guys are incredible artists. But we were able to practice a lot more, you know, in longer spurts of time.
And so like you didn't have to deal with like NTA cops.
Not the same way. Not the same way. I mean, if you were on the RTD, which was what our MTA was, and you were destroying bus property, you know, then you would have the same problem. But a lot of times you just find a place that's out of the way and you do your pieces there. And there were like yards all throughout the city, like from like down here. There was one on Sunset Boulevard and Fairfax called the Sunfax Yard, which was behind an Arco. And that was a very famous yard. And West Coast and KSN, we both painted there. And there was also controversy whose yard it was. And because the West Coast guys did have their names on the wall first, but everyone started calling it the KSN yard. So, I don't know. It's just
there wasn't really like
bullshit.
a graffiti squad either for the LAPD at that point.
Not that early. No, we had the jump on the city. Like there was a lot of shit we were getting away with, and the only people that were angry were probably the RTD bus systems. And there was like a whole like movement of bus taggers. That was like a thing, and that was a big deal. Like if you were all city on a bus.
So were they considered like toys because they only tagged like certain?
Some people would consider bus taggers toys, but I think there were kings. There were bus tagging kings. The same way there's like inside kings in New York, where there's guys that only tag the inside of the train. There was a guy who wrote I-N, in New York, and I know he's like considered an inside king. You know, so there's all these different categories that you could king, I guess, you know, and then, you know, everybody kind of puts like burners on the pedestal, like, oh, if you can do a wild style piece, you're the real shit. So, you know, but I think a lot of people, like, then there's all the like bombing cliques that they just like to destroy property and like do throw ups and stuff. And I love that too. It's all cool. But,
so the shifters.
Right. So let's go to that. So I was trying to like introduce the originators of the Shapeshifters crew, me, Sir, and this guy Mech.
So, okay.
That's the Shapeshifters. Just that's it. It didn't
y'all
exist.
were all bombers too, like,
and we all did a lot of graffiti. Like all three of us had a kind of a reputation. Like people knew who Mech was. He was a West Coast artist kid. He was also a really good breakdancer. Sir was as well. Really fucking good. Those guys were a team together, and they used to tag together under different names. So they were old friends. And Mech was also like an encyclopedic hip hop nerd, and best friends with Rob One. And they lived a block away from each other by the Formosa Cafe, which was you know where that is? Okay, so Rob One lived about 2 blocks from that, and they're on Fountain. And then Mech was like 2 blocks from that. I forget. I think he actually lived on Formosa Street. And Mech had the SP1200. There's where it all happens. And so we end up going to Mech's house, and just as fans, just like, yo, I wrote a rhyme. Yo, I'll make a beat. And this ties in just with like, you know, proving my fanship or whatever, that our very first song that we ever tried to make has a Rammellzee sample in it from Beatbop.
From Beatbop, yeah. What was the sample?
Just freak it, yo, bite back. I'm itching to play it for you guys. I'm surprisingly not embarrassed of it, even though it's terrible.
You got it.
I'm very proud of it because it's literally the first Shapeshifter song ever made.
Wow.
And Rob produced the beat. The SP12 was acting up and has this weird ring. The bass tone has this kind of bong to it. That's very. If you know what SP12s sound like, you'll hear it and you'll be like, yeah. It was a flaw.
I've lived my life on SP12.
Oh, so you know what's up. You know that kind of weird sort of compressed.
I switch on to the offbeat like magic. I go gadget, mechanical microphone and metaphor, combustible compounds ignite. I ride the track like a BMX bike. I use resources, yeah, and of course this is natural. Factual material with powerful forces. My brain holds memories, solving who's done it. I'm knocking on skulls for groups of who did it. In minutes, I'm digging a body. What? Frontal lobotomies with no anesthesia. My private eye skills leave the teeth with amnesia. I translate, relay, words that calculate. Equate the square roots, my brain's convoluted. Deactivating toys, no batteries included. Deactivating funk, no I can see. Excluded. I looted all the samples and cuts with that copyright example. Put the control switch on the panel. I dip into the data bank to fly off the handle. I ramble, irrational thoughts of a world scandal. 3, 2, 1, and I blast off a handful. 1, 2, 3. MC's tossed in a black hole. Ignition. A rocket ship mission to nowhere. So if you know where you're coming from, then go there. So stop using his or hers or theirs or those or these or them. You chose to please the critics with to get your shit off. You're biting your bit off, so get off and step to the side with that stupid shit. I'm a man. I'm a man. I'm a man. I'm a man. Shit straight down. Yeah, I'm a man. I'm a man. I'm a man. I'm a man. Shit straight down.
So when did you meet Rob?
So, dude, see, Rob and Skate, also best friends before graffiti. They've been friends since like junior high, elementary school probably. They probably went to Gardner School together, which is another whole story about like skating at the Gardner School. That's where I would meet up with Rob and Skate. They would be there skateboarding, not graffiti, just hanging out. And
So
they're like 2 years younger than us, and that meant a lot when you're in junior high school. You know,
How many of like the graph dudes in that early period in the early mid '80s were also skaters? Like, there was a lot of crossover. No,
not that much. Not the way you would think LA cliche would be, where you're like, oh, they're all skaters that now want to be writers. Some of them were dyed-in-the-wool writers, like had no interest in skateboarding, but our clique did. We were punk rockers. We were fucking. I grew up fucking reading Skateboarder and Action Now magazine and Thrasher when I was really young, like when Thrasher started.
I never skated, but I kicked it with skaters because they listened to rap.
Yeah, well, we had like Menace Crew.
What's
And
that?
Menace is a skateboarding company that all the kids were down with hip hop. And my friend Paul Takahashi, whose brother was a DJ, and he's now a DJ. And this kid Eric Duncan, who's now DJ Dunks, who's a worldwide fucking famous DJ from Atwater Village. So those are our like, you know, pride and joy kind of dudes that are blowing up still to this day. Like he was a protege of DJ Harvey from Venice, who's like kind of like a Balearic DJ. I don't know if you know any of this bullshit. It's all DJ jargon. It doesn't matter. But these, you know, I'm proud of him. Like I'm really like excited that those guys went on. But like the Menace skate crew, when they were like 12 and 13 years old, they used to come to my house to skate my ramp. And then they all became kind of famous.
You had a ramp in the backyard?
Yeah, I used to have like there was an empty lot here. And I inherited it from Skate's best friend, this other dude, Zach, whose dad kicked it out of the house. And he was like, I can't have a ramp anymore. Get this thing the fuck out of here. And like, if it's not gone in a week, I'm burning it. And so Skate was like, dude, do you want this? And I was like, yes. And my dad just fucking drove up with a truck, put the ramp transitions in. And we came back for the flat bottom and brought it here. Dude, my dad, the guy that was hanging out, is the coolest. Like,
so it was you, Mech, and Sir.
And Sir. Okay, here we go. We're at Mech's house. We make this track. We're kind of into it. We've got Fly ID show. That's Rob's show. That we can actually premiere it on.
Right?
We can bug Rob and be like, yo, play our song, play our song. You know, he tried his best.
How'd you choose the name Shapeshifters?
So I'm at Santa Monica City College. I have that poetry class where I saw Mike's name in the Frank O'Hara poem. And the teacher hands us this fucking like stack of like mimeograph, whatever, you know, Xeroxes of all these different things. And one of them is an excerpt from a book called Shapeshifter by this female poet. So I thought, that's cool. It was just a kind of a thing like, if you've ever like written a rhyme and you fucking have to cut out a line and put it somewhere else, I thought of that as shapeshifting. Like you're like shifting the shape of your lyrics. So I thought it worked, you know, but that was my rationale behind it. So I did bring that to the table. I have like a list of like names. I've named groups over the years, but that's the earliest one.
So what did Mac and Sir think about the name?
I think they were just down. We all respected each other, like just as artists, like graffiti artists, and just knowing that like how much he knew about hip hop and how much like Sir was a DJ. He had ill collection. Like, he had all the James Brown records. He had fucking all the Ultra 12 inches. If you had all the Ultra 12 inches, you were the man. You know, and he had Divine Force. He had Busy Boys. All the fucking OG fucking early, you know, Easy and Troop, Get Retarded. Like all the 12 inches that if you had them, you're the man. Majestic, fucking, what's the other one? Deuces Wild. Deuces is Death. Like all the early New York kind of like hip hop that only had a single and then disappeared.
And
Dismasters, small time hustler by the Dismasters. If you don't know that, like, dude, it uses the fucking Hustler Convention bass line. That's I think Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Lightning Rod. Yeah, it is Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah.
Illest bass line.
So where would they get these 12 inches? Like,
it all connects. Rob One worked at not Aaron's Records, the other record store. Renee's All Ears.
That was like South LA?
And he would get, Melrose.
Okay.
And he would just fucking yank all the fresh 12 inches. And he would like look up on the catalogs and he'd be like, okay, B-Boy Records, order all of these. Okay, what's this? I don't know what this is, but let's order it anyways. Don Barron, isn't he in, I think he's the dude from Masters of Ceremony. Let's order that. Don Barron had a solo record. So he just was so early on everything because he could order it off the catalog. So that's how Rob kind of like rose up ahead of everybody because he was working at the record store.
And he had like an archivist sensibility.
Dude, the best. And he was generous, man. Like he would tell me about stuff when it came out, which like a lot of times hip hoppers are hiding their shit. Like in the mold of like Bambaataa scrubbing off the labels. Like people would just be like, new single came out, but I haven't played it yet, so I can't tell anybody that I have it until the party, you know, and then drop it at the fucking party. But he was always like, yo.
He had to share, yeah.
He really did. The illest thing, I became like a kind of like more global music nerd, and I started finding more obscure shit. The illest sample Rob ever had that it took me 20 years to find was a Duke Ellington sample that we used for another early Shapeshifter song. I'm just bringing it up because Rob had that fucking like spectrum of knowledge that he knew, I'm going to use this Duke Ellington like crazy piano.
Skate.
Right.
So they got involved around the same time.
And Mech, and they were, Rob and Skate got involved in bus tagging. And I think the first crew that Skate was in was ABC. So it's funny that he starts CBS because it's like network, like very cool.
What did ABC stand for?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but there was a guy named Hex, and he was from sort of like Silver Lake area. Or his yard was over by Silver Lake. There was a yard on Sanborn and Sunset. That was a very famous graffiti yard. I think I did some of my best pieces there. But ABC crew kind of like started that yard. And he was friends with this guy Hex. And there's another Hex that's famous.
Yeah, I've heard of the other one, yeah.
From the battle, Hex and Slick. I don't know where he's from. He just showed up later. And his art looks more like kind of like airbrush art to me. I didn't consider him a graffiti writer. I was kind of like, who is this other Hex? We already have a Hex, Hex ABC. So I bring it up to just talk about Skate's origin. He was in other crews before he started CBS. I don't know if Rob, it sucks they're both dead. I would love to talk to Rob about ABC crew, you know, because they would know the history. Because Rob was an ill historian.
He was.
He would just be like, yo, and then this, and then this, and then this, you know, and his voice, how he talks like this, and he's such a funny guy. So Skate starts CBS, and it's just, I think, him and Rob, and Mech was kind of like, he was in West Coast, but he was just dyed-in-the-wool CBS because he was best friends with those two guys. But at the time, CBS was like kind of an underdog crew. They weren't like up there with like everybody else. They were kind of like, oh yeah, those guys, they're okay. You know, it wasn't like a, oh, dude, you see the new CBS piece? No one was saying that. That wasn't, you know what I mean? And Rob could paint, but it wasn't like on that level. It wasn't like West Coast artist level. And so, you know.
He wasn't doing like wild style shit, really.
Right. But he knew the history. He knew his shit, but it's just, you know, not everyone can get to that level, you know. And he was a DJ and doing other stuff, So I think for many years, CBS was kind of an underdog crew. And when that new wave of kids came in, like Mir and Anger and those guys, I'm trying to think of those other kids, you know, that wave. I think they put like new blood into it, and then it sort of started going in a kind of like stronger direction, and there were a lot of them. And my buddy Rival, who also passed away, who was like probably to me the best West Coast artist in that whole crew, and like probably the best West Side writer there was, because he was the one that like apprenticed from Soon like religiously, like he did it the right way and learned all the fucking skills. And I guess his dad had money, and he would go to New York and take photos and stuff, so he kind of had it in. But he was good friends with Skate and those kids, and he, I think, mentored them as well. And so they were kind of getting their skills together and like, you know, started becoming a more notable crew. And I think Mir had that very kind of illustrative style, and he did that Limp Bizkit album cover, and people were like, oh, these dudes are pretty good. So it turned into, now it's like they're contenders. They're in the fucking mix, you know, thanks to Skate, you know, because he was basically like mentoring them, teaching them the ways, you know, just being like, look, this is how it goes.
Did Skate ever rap or anything?
No, I don't think so. I think he stayed in his lane. And I wouldn't see him at like the Fly ID show ever either. He kind of kept those things separate. He had his hands full. He had his family.
And he was kind of homeless off and on.
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah.
And then they would help him, you know, then like, you know.
So how did folks like AWOL and Circus and Meek, you know, the whole, and Courtney, Stereo?
That's like my blind spot. That's like me moving to New York and sort of being like, I don't know shit anymore. Like, I'm in New York and I don't know what you guys are doing, until I get like an email from Circus who's like, yo, I finally got in touch with you. I want to send you our music. Like, yo, we're doing Shapeshifters now.
Because he took the name, right?
Yeah, they just basically ran with it. Like, all I know is there's this like relentless song that's got like 50 guys on it. It's on YouTube, and they mention our demo. Remember My Face.
Remember my face. I'm the shapeshifter. I'm the shapeshifter. Remember my face. I'm the shapeshifter. Remember my face. I'm the shapeshifter.
But on that cut, I guess there's like 20 guys rapping, and they mention the original demo, which we never shopped. We didn't even think about that. We just made a tape. I did the artwork for it. Mac did some lettering. I don't know what we were thinking. We're just fans. You know what I mean? It's like, do it for the culture. Hand it to your buddy, you know, like, hey, check this tape out. I'm rapping on it, you know. We were naive. We didn't, you know, the most ambitious thing was trying to get it on Fly ID. You know, that's about as far as it went.
So what happened to Mech? Is he alive?
Mech is alive, yeah, he's around. He's got a daughter and a son, and his daughter's really into futsal, like Brazilian soccer.
Maybe you can put me in touch.
Okay.
Could be a good link to include in this.
Sure. Mech.
But would you say like the style of rap that you established with the original Shapeshifters kind of was adopted and carried on in a way through
like how I continued?
Iterations? No, like through Circus and all those guys.
Not at all.
You know,
they had their own thing.
But the Ultra influence is strong.
Right. That's true. We did bring that, and like lyrically, I'll play you the very first track, and you can judge for yourself. The lyrics, it's already pushing, and it's already like you can tell we love Ultra. That's there. So yeah, I'll take credit for that. But when I hear their shit, I hear this very fluid kind of more like, what was that club called? That cafe? the Freestyle Fellowship.
Good Life.
Mm-hmm. There's a Good Life feel to their stuff
Mm-hmm.
that we didn't touch. And like Mech used to go to Good Life. I never went. The very first Shapeshifter song I'd say was recorded probably tail end 90, maybe 91.
Okay.
And then that demo, the Remember My Face demo, is probably early 92 because then I moved to New York. And I think it says it on the cassette.
So you got the email
92.
from Circus in what, 93?
97?
Oh.
After I'd moved to New York.
Hmm.
And he somehow got in touch with me and was just like psyched to be in touch and just be like, yo, dude, we're doing Shapeshifters. I want to send you some music. And he sent me like the Way Too Funky 7-inch.
Oh yeah, no, that's my homeboy put that out. We were just talking
Really?
about it. Yeah.
So I have that and then a CD with a kind of like a space scene on the cover.
The Planet of the Shapes.
Yeah, Planet of the Shapes. Sorry.
I'm on that shit too.
You're on there? Oh, dope. Yeah, man. Again, man, my mind just always drifts into something else. Like by then I was like completely obsessed with like experimental music. I was in like a noise group. I was just doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting Hawd Gankstuh Rappuhs. Like, and that was like low ambition. I didn't try to get on Word Sound.
Yeah.
Somebody sent the tape to Word Sound and was just like, yo, I just sent your tape to this actual label and they want to do it.
We're going to save the Guy Albino Hawd Gankstuh's interview for another time. That's definitely on the list.
Wait, it's not happening today?
You want to keep going?
He's bored.
No.
I don't think
Are you bored?
He's collecting material.
I don't want... This is like
if you want to
a
keep
fucking
going.
egomaniac's dream. I just get to keep talking about myself. Like...
I'm your typewriter. You're getting bombarded by the thing, almost retarded ass slapping his ball flashing, capping every rapping. Guy Albino is fuckface and go-go. Don't make me loco, shoot a hobo with my crossbow. Punch you in the head and make it fly off the body, landing bloody beaming Scotty to the Enterprise. While I'm eating flies off a starving baby's head in Uruguay. Uncircumcised elephant, dick, is just how large that I can get. But instead I drop dead, pass out, ass out, under hypnosis. Then I woke up in a cave, I must have been a sex slave.
One of the people in that movie say something like, "Word sound have power." Or him feel it, know it.
I know the phrase from Divine Styler. He says he had a record called Word Sound.
Oh yeah, it's a
Power,
great
so,
record.
Yeah.
Divine Styler.
He's one of my favorites.
Word power.
It's me, Divine Styler, phonograph child of myself, Lord and Master Nation.
Yeah, man. You know what track was really good? Was it was on Directrix 2. It's Before Mecca.
Before Mecca Dawn.
Dude.
Before Mecca
That's
Dawn.
We're feeling the source. I'm feeling the source.
He's the best, man.
Yeah, that album.
That track is so throwback. Like
that was like the single from the record.
It's almost like a Mantronics beat. It's like bam, 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 bam.
He did a lot of those beats too, I believe.
Oh yeah.
See my shirt?
Yeah.
Are you fucking serious?
That's
I would
great.
have jacked you if I knew.
I know. Yeah, we're gonna have to have that. Yeah, man. So here's a little sidebar. Divine Styler went to Taft in the Valley with Everlast, Bilal, another dude from Scheme Team. Ice Cube was there at the same time.
Was Cockney O'Dyer there too?
I don't know, maybe.
He was in the Scheme Team.
Yeah.
He's
a tall, skinny guy, right? Yeah. I used to see them at Water the Bush. That was a club on Hollywood that we did graffiti. And that was where all the like graffiti writers and rappers met up. We'd get in free and just chill. Bronx Style Bob would perform.
Oh yeah, because they were all Ice-T, Rhyme Syndicate.
Yeah, Rhyme Syndicate.
Yeah.
Now it's the Everlast there.
Yeah, I always wondered about Everlast and Divine Styler being like best friends. It seemed like
they were definitely
like black. It was like a black-white.
Yeah,
like,
high school
buddy cop movie.
High school buddies, and then
Well,
what's
no,
his name?
but
Danny
it's-
Boy was in Mickey Mouse Club. Which was
Really?
that sort of gang.
But no, Divine Styler's from Brooklyn now, so they couldn't have gone to high school because Everlast is from out here.
No, Divine moved out here.
Yeah, he moved out here like after
88.
Yeah. Okay.
88.
Okay.
Now I know the lineage because a crew member, Finn from KSN, my crew, went to school with them. And he's good friends with Everlast.
So they went to high school together.
Danny
What
Boy.
high school?
And he's the one that turned me on to like Ultra, Jungle Brothers, all through Divine.
That makes
So
sense.
all my hip hop knowledge from the later 80s comes from Divine Styler.
Wow.
Schooling my friend.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah, because yeah.
And we would bump into Divine sometimes, and he was going through his like Jimi Hendrix phase. And
his second record?
His second record.
Kool-Aid, whatever the fuck that shit was.
Dude, and he was on some shit. He would be like walking down fucking Santa Monica Boulevard with an acoustic guitar, total hippie, just like not to be bothered, and like doesn't want to talk about hip hop, and just like, you know, wants to chop it up about rock and roll. I remember when I first got Word Power, the one you're talking about, the first one, and his flow, it was like, I was obsessed with like, you know, like Ultra and fucking, you know, Poo Bop, early like Masters of Ceremony, like Cracked Out and fucking, you know, and feeling kind of like I couldn't completely latch on to his, because he'd be like like within the bar, and it was almost too much. I was just like, that's too much cadence. I can't follow it. I'm not grooving on this. And then it grew on me.
Yeah,
He's
and
lyrical
also,
as fuck.
It's so lyrical, but also like kind of incomprehensible.
Yeah, and on purpose, probably.
He's Divine style.
Yeah. Give him some space.
Third album, the fourth album was pretty cool too.
Oh, really? Yeah, see,
that one?
I stumbled on the Directrix like later, and I was just like, I'll buy this. And I loved it. And I was just like, oh, shit.
Yeah, I think it was 10 years after Directrix, whatever.
Right, and
he
another
put
one.
out that Death Mask, it was called.
Oh, wow. And so what characterizes that record? What would you say that sounds like?
It's probably his most... it's almost his most
like conventional hip hop.
His most consistent album, because even Directrix had like those like
fucking interludes,
weird interludes and stuff. But this is all rap, and it's all his production, and it's all just like hard, kind of little bit industrial influence hip hop beats. Pretty fucking great though. It's very sci-fi.
Definitely.
Perpetrating operators, offers rock orders over slave trade commentators.
Hey yo, peep the big data, low IQ carriers, bubonic niggas, white, black, gray matter, illogical captives, hostile savages, zoological masses, blow GMO cannabis, third eye is darkening, wobbling your eyelid, retrofitting.
So, all right, I'll pick up now.
Okay.
Last thing I'm going to say about like early 90s is this. Just to give myself the credit.
You got that
oh yeah, what's the story with that? I forget.
Okay, so Ems, who is in New York now, Ems one, he is a DJ who was on Fly ID.
Come over here.
On Fly ID radio show. He was originally from the North Bronx. Another complete hip hop fiend, like maniac, who I would actually like dub tapes from him because he had like the original battles. He had the Kumo versus Busy Bee battles. He had like everything, like just like stocked up in his grandma's house, and like I would just dub shit from him and just be like, oh my god, I'm learning everything about hip hop now. So we hung out a lot, and he started working at the Rifkin Company before they called it Loud. It was just Rifkin Incorporated or whatever. And his dad probably gave him the money, and he started the company right on Melrose in Hollywood. Everyone thinks Loud is a New York
I thought it was New York, yeah.
Started in LA. The minute they started calling it Loud, they're like, all right, we need a logo. The only artist they had on the label at the time was Tongue Twister. There was no Wu-Tang. And so I didn't think that much of it. And my friend Ems was like, yo, man, like, I told them that you could do this logo. They're like, yo, you know any graffiti artists or somebody that could do this? I did the Loud logo.
Wow.
That's why I pulled it out, because I'm like, I have to like pat myself on the back,
No,
because
props,
it's sort of like, it's a weird thing. Stephen Rifkin even asked in like maybe like a Breakfast Club interview, just says like, oh, I don't know, someone at the label did it. You don't get credit for this.
Like he remembered. He was just like, whatever.
Yeah, who is that guy? Fuck him. And we paid him $250 and got him the fuck out of here. You know, and that's what happened. You know, so I didn't think that much of it at the time. It wasn't like, oh, Def Jam asked me to do something. It was like, oh, Stephen Rifkin Incorporated is starting this thing called Loud.
Fuck that guy.
Right, fuck him. But you know, look, whatever he did for culture, thank you. You know, Wu-Tang is like indispensable. Like, we can't really like hate him for that.
Fucking dropped this group called Dark Mind.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear them?
No.
Yeah, they were on Loud, and he fucking
shit.
just dropped. He like ripped them off and dropped them.
Really?
I mean, that's what he did to people.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he's like classic. I mean, he's second generation music industry. I mean, Spring Records with his dad and all that shit. Anyways, so you know, I do the logo. I'm hanging out with Twista, and these guys were touring and doing shows and stuff, and I'm being like, oh, I'm part of this fucking entourage. That's pretty cool. And then my friend Ems gets busted racking records from Loud on the street from his boss. Like his boss is walking up the block and he sees him with fucking handfuls of records and he's like,
he was gonna like sell them to a record store.
Exactly. Probably going to Rob to sell them at fucking Renee's. And he was just like, you're fired. Everyone you know is now persona non grata. So now it's like, I can't really hang out at Loud. It's not my thing anymore because Ems got fired. But before that, we get connected to Amanda Shear and Buzztone, who is promoting Cypress Hill, Hooligans with Alchemist. And that's how I kind of bump into those guys. And like I end up like meeting Alchemist when he's like 15. And he sort of followed graffiti. He knew who I was, and we're still in touch.
He's ahead, right? I mean, he really knows his shit, right?
Yeah, and he's a true one. Like he's a dude that respects culture. Like he really like. I'll get into a later story after we do the hard shit. But when I bumped into him later as adults, he was fucking the coolest.
Did you cross paths with the Bud Bundy guy, whoever that was?
How do you know about that?
Because he was like, he was part of like.
How did you know that?
B, fool. That was his name.
My friend was just telling me on the phone like a few days ago. He's like, the Bud Bundy was like part of
so
what made the
Grandmaster B was his rap name on Married with Children. But yeah, then he had a different.
But he actually tried to come out as a rapper.
Yeah, he had Farside. He had Jay Swift and fucking Trey was on his first single.
And I came to learn he was good friends with the Booyah Tribe. You ready for that story? All right.
Yes, please.
This is a quick one. We'll get to the hard stuff, I promise. But dude, I do a logo for his Hollywood underage club. It's called High Times, I think. He's running this fucking, weird little thing.
So did he hire
where it's like
Booyah
underage
to be,
girls?
security
And it's sketchy. It's like, it's a weird thing. And yeah.
So Booyah was like his
Right.
bouncers or whatever?
Yeah. But like, I do the logo on the strength because I'm like, he's a celebrity. He wouldn't fucking jerk me. Dude doesn't want to pay. I found out where he lives. I show up to his house. I'm like, bro, I don't play this shit.
$200 or something too. It wasn't even
$500.
Yeah.
It was enough to like want it.
No, it's meaningful. Yeah.
And I was just like, and I show up. First thing I see, Booyah Tribe. They're all there at his house, like as if they knew I was coming.
I'm sure he paid them.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And he pulls up in like a brand new Mercedes Benz, and he's got like a friend who's exactly his size because he's like a little guy, and his best friend buddy is sitting next to him, another little white kid, and they're like in the car getting ready to have a fun all day. And I fucking pull up to the car, and I'm like, "Remember me? I need my money." And the Booyah dudes kind of surround us, and they're
It
just
only
sort
takes
of
like one Booyah guy to surround like 5
yeah,
people.
exactly. Yeah, one guy could surround me, and they're basically like, "What do you want me to do with this asshole?" Right? And he's like, "You know what? I'm gonna be cool. I'm gonna give you half." Fucking dickhead gave me half the money, like on the spot, pulled it out of his wallet. He was like, "Here's $250." He wasn't rude. He didn't say like, "Now get the fuck out of my face" or anything like that. He was just like, "We good?" You know what I mean? And these other dudes are standing behind me, just kind of like, "Are we good?"
That was a compromise, I guess.
It's just like, son of a bitch. This is like out of a movie. Like, this really happened to me? So that's my Bud Bundy story. But I just wanted to connect that thing too, because I had done like a logo for the Baker Boys and the Hooligans under Buzztone management.
Okay.
Which was Amanda Shear and her husband at the time, Skate Master Tate.
Right. Oh, Skate Master Tate is like the OG of the fucking guy.
Right, and dude, yeah, who used to just be called Potato. Like to skaters, they just called him Potato.
He was friends with Rob too, right? Wasn't that
yeah.
thing?
Yeah. Yeah, they were all friends, and Amanda too. And I did a logo for Amanda's club. She's a New Yorker. She had a club called Car Wash in New York, and then she moved to LA and started her business there, Buzztone. And then she got with Cypress Hill, Hooligans, which didn't work out, but that whole kind of like umbrella of Soul Assassins, yeah, all that shit. So anyways, I was sort of tied into that, doing art for them. The worst kind of like business you can do is everyone jerks you. And it's like I said, with the same with the David Faustino, it was all within 1 year. I think that stuff happened to me.
Yes, okay,
right. And then I moved to New York. So let's get that out of the way. I moved to New York, do a bunch of blah blah blah, whatever. Decide, okay, I love animation enough to go to school for it. I go to RISD for animation. And my roommate, he plays music, he's got a sampler keyboard, and he makes this weird music, his own stuff. And at first I'm kind of like annoyed by him. I'm like, this dude's music, I hate it, and it's fucking annoying, and he's my roommate, what the fuck? And then we start becoming friends, and he's funny and cool, and he's got like a whole collection of experimental music, and we trade music. And then we get snowed in for a winter, and we can't go anywhere. And I'm like, yo, we should make a rap. We should make a song. And I had been doing like a few solo songs with like one other guy as another character that I called the Old Rusty Nail. And it was like right after 36 Chambers had come out. And I was completely obsessed with Wu-Tang, but still trying to be funny because I'm just a clown. I want to make fun of shit. So I'm doing this kind of like parody of Wu-Tang as the Old Rusty Nail. And I do these tracks. One of them ends up on a compilation called the Orgasmo Compilation. And Prince Charming, who then gets signed to Word Sound, it's his compilation.
Yeah.
He's the one that sends the track that me and my friend made when it was snowing in Providence to Word Sound. And then they're like, we're going to put this out. Okay, cool. So send him the cassette. I sent him the cassette. It's got 3 versions of the song on it. Because you can't like... We didn't do any overdubs, so if we fucked up a part of the song, we just had to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So my mistake was, I wanted it to be the highest fidelity it could be, so it was this first original tape, and I told him, I was like, look, it's the first track on side B. That's the one. And of course, Skiz puts out the wrong version. So the folklore behind I'm Going to Jail is it's the wrong version, and then we put on the real version as a bonus track on the CD.
Right.
So for me, that's the one I'm proud of. Whatever you think of that song.
I'll put a snippet of that one.
That's the one. That's got the right lyric when I'm, kicking back, sipping a shit cocktail. I said it properly on that one.
And when I'm through, you wish you was dead. And if you don't, well, I'ma still go ahead and kill you. Leave you lying there until you commence to rot and start smelling like mildew. Just like an Indian doing a rain dance. I jump up and down in your head and do a brain dance, punk. You jerk ass dork. I'm running through hell with your mom on my pitchfork. I rain on your parade, shit on your picnic, break my foot in your ass like a toothpick. And then I'll just sit back and have a chip cocktail, 'cause I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail.
But yeah, and then the Bong was actually the first song we ever did.
Oh right, that's one of the best ones.
The Bong song was the first thing we ever did, and that has that like rubbery, weird bass line in it, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, the Cypress Hill spoof.
Yeah, we're like making fun of Cypress Hill. So from the beginning, we're like parody. Like, might as well be like the Weird Al rappers.
Smoke that shit through an elephant's skull. I sparked the bowl when I was on the game show with Mink Martindale on Tic-Tac-Toe. Yo, that's 3 in a row. Then I peed in my pants 'cause I had to go. I wish I could turn off the TV show, but I can't 'cause I smoked my remote control. Guess what I got in my bong? It's another bong, and inside that bong is a baby bong, and inside that bong is a bong.
So that's kind of the foundation, and how Skiz just sort of like responded immediately, and then he was like, hey, I'll put it out if you guys want to do an EP. I'll put it on Black Hoods. And we ended up like flying to Chicago because the third member was in Chicago, do Crapmore. Matt. And we flew out there just to do that. We had to rent a 4-track. We had 4 days. And then there was this dude from our college who followed us there thinking that he was going to get on the record. And he kept intimating that he was going to come. And we were like, hey, if you want to come hang out and fucking, serve us drinks, that's cool. But you're not getting on the record. Mm-hmm. And the whole time he was there, he was like shitting on us and being like, you guys suck. This is going to fail. You guys are losers. Like, it was weird. It was weird, man. It was Under Duress, that whole EP. But I'm also very proud of that. I don't know if you've ever heard that one.
Under Duress?
No, I'm just saying we created it under duress.
The EP. Well,
the 10-inch.
No, I think
you heard the 10-inch.
Did that wind up on the album later?
It did. It ended up on a compilation, except one track. But I'll pull it out just for fun.
Okay.
Just because it's...
I knew Too Hype to Wipe. That was my introduction.
Right. Oh, well, I might as well just pull those out. This is the funniest version because my friend's neighbor wrote his name on it. So it says Arturo Gangster Rap. Always love that. So yeah. So I bet you never saw one on vinyl.
No.
I think they're only released in Germany. Wow. And this was the one that we did with the Noise label.
Right. Wake up and smell the piss.
And I think that might be the extent of it.
So this came out first.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that came out first.
And this is on Black Hoods.
Black Hoods. Yeah, that's a test pressing.
The word sound like subsidiary or whatever.
Right.
I guess that was just word sounds.
I don't know why he had that separate little thing going, but I guess it was like more off to the left stuff. Like he did the Crazy Wisdom Masters on Black Hoods, which is like the JB stuff that they were doing. Yeah. I still love that shit. I still think it's really cool.
Yeah.
And they did a sensational Meet Spectre on that too. So it's a good little run of things.
Yeah,
So,
and of course, the word sound story is something we've been kind of weaving in and out of throughout the Weird Rap series.
Oh, really?
We did because I did the in-depth Skiz interview.
Okay.
Also talked to Scotty Hard.
Okay.
And Sensational, obviously. So.
Oh, right.
This is like a kind of continuation.
How's Scotty Hard doing?
He seems pretty good. I mean,
He's
it's
good.
been a couple years now since I talked to him. But,
Yeah.
He was busy with recording this dude Ka, this rapper out there.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of stuff, I think. Still.
Good. Yeah.
So was the plan to stay anonymous with you guys from the beginning, the Hawd Ganksters?
Yeah, because basically, since everything was fictional, and so we were creating these characters, the funnest thing for us to do was to kind of like create these scenarios and make it like I don't know how many people would make a song about like people's doppelgangers coming back from the future to battle them. I mean, maybe that is a kind of shapeshifter sort of idea too. But like, we do stuff
really
like that.
early for doing anything like that.
Right. Just sort of like taking the form and just being like, what else can you do with this? I mean, we did a song where we were all women.
Right.
Whether it was successful or not, I mean, Skiz was so ashamed of that track, but
that was like a feminist song almost.
Right. I mean, we definitely empowered them. They were beating mad dudes' asses.
Yeah.
They weren't definitely not getting subjugated.
Except they asked me to quit. Ronald said supersize me, so I cut off his dick. And then I kept that shit, just in case I need to use it. And now it's in the fridge at my crib, and it's sealed up in a bottle. And that silly clown's in the hospital. The rhymes were mine, but the dick was Ronald.
Simple, classic elegance, and it's 7.5 inches in the length. It's beautifully domed on each of the links here, and then you have this ribbon effect with that raspberry sapphire stone.
I bet you pay good money just to lick my foot. You can taste my corn.
So, I guess you maybe kind of mentioned this, but the quality, the lo-fi, noisy quality was something that you were getting from people.
Unintentional most of the time. I think that once we did that noise record, I was sort of making fun of the fact that the record was going to come out on a noise label, so we did a song that was like extra noisy.
Oh, the second one, yeah.
Right. Which again, like, I think that there's some merit to some of those that kind of surpass some of the rapping.
It is harder to listen to for me. That
yeah.
second one. It's
good. I'm glad to hear it. I think that side to me is my favorite. Like Wildin' on a Desert Island is like the most psychedelic song I've ever made. Like I love listening to that because it's not rap anymore. It's just fucked up.
Yeah, I got to revisit
in between.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I wouldn't even recommend it.
And you wanna wait for the flow, but you sinking like snow in the Antarctica with Metallica, where you chill. Why you got the gel in your hairs like that? You have a little fudge sundae cause you're fat. Everybody get busy on it like this. What I could do for you.
I'm really in it for like the entertainment value, the humor, where it's going. I don't know.
Did you have any idea though, like at this time there's no real internet, you're not doing any live shows, so how are you having any idea of like who's consuming it or what people think of it? Is it just
Yeah, I mean, at that time, it was still sort of like journalists that had an interest in that, like yourself, that had this sort of like, oh, I like the off to the left stuff. We would get those reviews.
You got some reviews, yeah.
And I thought,
that's maybe
oh wow, there's people out there. And it was still like print.
Yeah.
Like magazine reviews and stuff, which I thought was really funny.
Because he did an okay job, I guess, with the publicity.
He did.
Or because he worked at the Source and all that stuff.
Right. And he knew a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah. And he went to Harvard with, what's his name from the Source, right?
Fucking David Mays?
Not the other guy. John Schechter.
Oh, fucking Schechter, yeah.
Shecky.
Anyways, yeah.
Right.
So what was your experience too, like with the larger like Word Sound family, and was it a community or?
Sensational is probably the person that I gravitated towards first, and overall the most, because his first record, Loaded with Power, was just so mind-blowing and perfect for what it was. It was dubby, it was fucking weird. And then like meeting him in person at like a Word Sound event, I realized like this was like a true artist. This was like somebody that was like dedicated to what they were doing. And as the years went on, we would collaborate, and he would show up at an event, and then we would end up hanging out the rest of the night. And at the end of the night, he would just be like hanging out at my house, and he would just crash. And I would realize this dude needs a place to crash. So he would stay at my place for a while, and sometimes just get busy making tracks. I had a 4-track, I had drum machines, and he would just like, that's what he did. He made music. He was a music making machine. So at any point in the day, he would just make music. I had a band called Plate Tectonics, and we did some live shows with Sensational emceeing on top of our music.
Name sensational, know what I'm saying? Turn this up, turn this up a lot, yeah. Smoke that pot, yeah. You hear Devin on the bass line, getting busy.
And I would compare it to, like Death Comic Crew with Ramel Z. It was like this very like experimental kind of beat-oriented music to the left of hip-hop, but really its own thing. And we've stayed in touch. Obviously now I'm appearing on his new record. I was very honored that he invited me to be on the song. So yeah, our relationship continues on to this day. Besides that,
I will say that like we really got along with Mr. Dead and Big Pat.
Right.
And we did that track with them, but like Dead stayed in touch and was just a friend and was just a really fucking cool guy.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know if you know, he's doing all that fucking like makeup effects stuff. He's like truly Mr. Dead. Like he kind of stepped right into his role, what kind of character he was as a rapper, which I thought was really cool. So I would say like him and his wife were like genuinely fans. Like they were like, oh, I love your shit. It's so fucking stupid. I love it. It's so funny. I never expected people to like accept it as part of the, art form. It was just sort of like, this is what I want to do. If you get the tone that we love what we're making fun of, then you get it.
Yeah.
Because those were the best reviews where people are like, this sounds terrible. I hate it. It really sucks. But they know a lot about hip-hop. You can tell. And that would make me happy. Even if it was a shitty review, I'd be like, they know that I love this shit.
Right.
Because you can't make that and just be a fucking corny outsider.
That's what I was telling you.
You can't be like, oh, hey, let's do fake hip-hop. Like, basically everybody now has their little, like, oh, I'm going to do a rap. Like, like, I don't want to, like, out them because he's friends and I think they're cool, but, like, the dude from Tim and Eric, like, Doug Pound, like, he does everything with a rap attached to it, but it's completely like, I'm a corny white guy and I'm a rapper. That approach, like, I find it disrespectful in some ways. Like, I think it's like, you don't have a license to drive this car. Like, don't get in the driver's seat. Like, get in the back seat, for 10 years. Learn something. Then we talk.
This shit ain't that funny. Like,
it's not. It's a real thing, and you have to earn it. Here's something I'll admit that I think I shot myself in the foot for. is I was friends with Paul Barman before he started rapping.
Oh, is it your fault that
he was at Brown? No, he was already interested, and he met me, and he knew we were doing Hawd Gankstuh Rappuhs, and he's like, "Oh, that's hilarious, man! You know, I rap too, you know." And we were like, "Okay, cool."
Speaking of Weird Al,
right? You know, and so I was like, really against what he was doing. Like, I was really like, this shit makes me angry. Like, oh, you know. But he was a friend. Like, he was literally someone I knew. And when we had the chance, there was a track. It's on that second record. It's called Monster Manual. And at some point, it might have been the longest posse cut ever until those Shapeshifters dudes made that fucking 30 people song. And Paul Barman wanted to get on it. And I let him get on it, and then I immediately jumped on and impersonated him.
Who hasn't got used to the new style of taco blues? Pasta news form signs while I write the pot news. In concerted garages and converted garages. My beats are slamming, it's feast or famine. So past the Easter ham and the mic. And that's not what you say we did. I like that Slim Shady kid. I hop to leaf like a Katie. It's no wonder if I go under. I try to throw thunder. The thunder tosser like Hunter Tosser. Is this a slow bunder? I'm lyrical, limerical, spherical, cyclical.
I'm Existo, the existential poet, MC Clown Laureate, delving ever deeper to achieve with ease all the G's that go along with my doctorate degree. I'm here to present fly prose, and heaven knows my flows are oh so smart to ya, like John Paul Sartre, but not prosaic, far from formulaic, congruent to none. But learning can be fun, so don't make me get algebraic, lest I digress and give you all F's on your rapper's test. Okay, who's next?
It was very blatant what I did. I'm not proud of it, but I think it's still funny. It's still a funny song. That's what I'm saying. Like, I couldn't control myself. Like it was like the whatever he brought out the bully in me. Like I was like, I can't not do this. I have to clown this because it's going against everything I believe in. And then next thing you know, Prince Paul jumps in, grabs him and is like, "You're a star. I'm gonna make you huge."
I kind of still resent Prince Paul for that.
And it's like, okay.
I will say I think Paul Barman became an amazing lyricist later. I stand behind his third album a lot, and a lot of the second
That's cool.
album.
People love him. Like, he's actually like embraced by the community. He was like cool with MF Doom, and my buddy Scotch, who's friends with Doom, stays in touch with them, and they're cool. And Scotch is the most real school hip hop dude who was like went to high school with Slick Rick, is like from fucking day one, and he's cool with them. And so I'm the one that looks like an asshole at the end of the day.
But he's a clown. He's not threatening, so that's why people can just like laugh at him. He's doing whiteface. He's doing straight up fucking whiteface.
Well, that's the thing is like, yeah, you're filling a void that didn't exist. True. But not my flavor.
There's a fucking reason why it didn't exist.
It's not my flavor. But then, look, there's people that respond to it. What can we do?
So, take us through the relatively short history of the group. From the first to the last. What happened?
Okay, so my roommate, his best friend from his hometown was the third member, Duke Cratmore. And up front, he is no longer with us. He passed away. He was in a motorcycle accident probably about 5 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. Sorely missed.
R.I.P. Duke Cratmore.
R.I.P. Duke Cratmore. He's sorely missed. He was a fucking genius guy who like just went into computer programming. You ever have that friend who's like smarter than you and more creative but doesn't do art and just, I'm just going to do this other thing? He was like that kind of guy where you're just like, damn, this dude's so creative and fucking cool. And every time he would do a rap on our song, it was so wrong that I would hate it, and I would just be like, this is bad. This is just not good. And then his would be the funniest later. Like, I'd be like, oh, he said the funniest thing. That's the best. I love his stuff. So it's not for everybody. It's an acquired taste. If you know our stuff, his parts are always the most like, who's this fucking Frankenstein guy?
A dick in the head. Damn, must be me. Rhymes like mine, real asinine. That's fine. For example, give him the sample. They hid the Easter eggs, but they never did find. The McMonkey fried chicken has been on my mind.
Now the time in the year is 5929. No, you don't know what.
And talking about like whatever you're talking about, like our short history, I just want to start with like our friendship and us like kind of like trading jokes and just having the same kind of sense of humor.
Yeah.
And so anytime we'd have a concept, or even like when we did the skits, those are all freestyle. Those are all at once. We did the entire thing at one time and then cut it up. That's the kind of like synergy we had. We just had that sort of like, we're pretending we're on a radio show. You know, my one friend's the host, and then we're fucking pretending like we're, you know, all that stuff just happened on the fly. So that's where you can kind of see.
Yeah, there's a real palpable energy there.
Right, that's kind of almost where we shine. It's like even like mentioning that thing about Kool Keith, like he's a great rapper. He's a fucking legendary like hip hop figure, like of any kind, like even just where he started. But his talents, like the other things that he does, like his fucking like impromptu sort of lists and all those things, that's a gift. He just has that fucking natural gift. And I think that like for what we did, our just kind of like random subject matter is probably like what we brought to the table. I don't know like if any of us are in any way skilled rappers. We just fucking love the culture. And like the thing with the anonymity also is sort of important to note, that like that comes from the Residents. If you're familiar with the San Francisco group, the Residents, like they were anonymous and remain anonymous. I mean, at this point, it's been like 50 years, so it's like you kind of know who they are. But like that was the impetus behind it. You know, besides like us creating the characters, we just thought, oh man, the Residents, that's like, you know, the best.
Yeah, and there must be something freeing in being completely divorced from any like actual connection to the character or whatever.
And career-wise, like just thinking about being in Skiz's position, signing a group that refuses to play shows and that like isn't touring and that like has no interest or ambition, I feel for him. You know, like he, I think, pictured us as some sort of like retarded Beastie Boys kind of thing, like, oh, someone will find the appeal in this and it'll be funny and they'll get out there on the road and people will be into it. And we're like, we're not doing that. We're not leaving the house. Like, we're recording and then you're going to put out the record, and that's what we can do.
He did not put business first, to his credit, you know.
Right.
He like
he was
Sensational is one example too.
Yeah.
It was just like,
no, he was a creative
uniqueness.
Yeah, exactly. But he was someone that like promoted creativity. And
so did you all decide to disband after the second album, or what happened?
No, I mean, I think that we all just kind of like did other things, and like even during that record, like we were just doing other things. I had like another band that I was doing, and like it was just kind of this fun thing that we like to come together and do. So it wasn't really a career choice. It was just as an artist, which I consider myself first, something that was an outlet and something that I did. But like I continued to kind of like pursue it and like making other tracks and doing stuff with other people and stuff like that. So,
you should mention, I guess, the post-group projects that have continued the legacy. So you didn't rap for about 2 decades, right? Or what?
I mean, I've been doing shit with people on the side for fun, just for myself, and just like freestyling and fucking around for years. At one point I reconnected with Mech, my old Shapeshifters partner. He had moved to New York. You know, he brought a handful of beats and was like, yo, you know, if you want, you can rap on these beats. I think a few of them were produced by Raka from Dilated Peoples. Then later I met up with a producer now known as DJ Dre Skull, and he produces a lot of reggae. He's worked with Snoop Dogg, and he produced a track for me specifically. There's a track, 2 tracks by Alchemist. So there's like handfuls of Guy Albino tracks that I've just been accumulating over the years. I did a couple with Sensational, and the only reason why I've been kind of considering putting all this stuff out is reconnecting with Sensational and finding out that he's putting out a record with Thomas Quinlan, and he was actually an early Hawd Gankstuh Rappuhs fan and interviewed us probably around 2000 and has remained steadfast fan and has continued to like put us in his top 10. He's probably the only person on the planet who has done that.
and God bless him for it. And he's actually asked if I'd be interested in releasing all those Albino tracks. So, you know, that's something that's in the works and we might actually follow through on. Besides that, you know, I've been doing music since the time that those records were released and continued on until now. I had a band called Pixel Tan, which was kind of like a no-wave breakbeat group where it was like bass drums with vocals. And then that went on to become Plate Tectonics. And that was the project that I collaborated with Sensational on. After that, I started working with my friend and mentor, cartoonist Gary Panter, and we've released probably about 5 records from about 2004 up until now, and that's more of like an experimental group.
Bigfoot hide in the woods. Bigfoot gather sticks. Bigfoot make comfy lean-to. Bigfoot mash down leaves. Bigfoot take long nap.
So here's the thing. This is where Hawd Gankstuh Rappuhs evolved into my cartoon that I did for Adult Swim, which was called Y'all So Stupid,
right?
Which was an online cartoon, which is a similar universe. It's just kind of random, Dadaist, kind of crazy shit. A lot of urban shit, a lot of cops versus gangsters and all this shit.
Is that a reference to the
group?
Pakistanis?
It's not, but they contacted me actually, and they were like, kind of like, can we have the website domain? And I was like, sure. They're like, we're going to go on tour with Far Side, and we just want to make sure that we have the domain. And I was like, cool, you can have the domain. But they never took it. It never happened. Maybe that tour didn't happen. I don't know. But it was just such a perfect name. I was like, this is like an address to the universe. Y'all So Stupid. And so that's what the show was. And that's how I pitched it to Adult Swim. Was like, this is going to be a world of just like, everybody's included. There's no star. There's no like breakout Bart Simpson character. It's just a cartoon about like shit that happens in the world. And so that, I think the energy that I had for these records went into that cartoon. Mm-hmm. And I think in general, that's what people mostly know me for. Oh, Devin Flynn. Oh, he did Y'all So Stupid.
Right.
So, you know, and that's the like interface with like, you know, Tim and Eric. And I met Eric Wareheim when I was making Y'all So Stupid. And we ended up doing that video for Flying Lotus, Parisian Goldfish. I just wanted to sort of like connect what I did in my animation career with this, because I think that if you don't do that, it seems really like, so you did these 2 records and then you just fell asleep for 20 years.
No.
You pop back up and we're like, I think I'll do another rap.
Right. No.
Yeah.
Your
it's
animation
like,
career has been very involved, and then
and it's
after
sort of
Y'all So Stupid, there was also a lot more, right?
Yeah. Well, like I said, like I started working with Eric on that video, and from there it was sort of like every freelance gig sort of jumped off from seeing that.
Yeah.
So it sort of like put me on the map, and then people were like, oh, we know that you had done this. Why don't you do this? Let's work on something else together. And so that Super Deluxe channel hired me to do another show, and I did a show with Amy Lockhart that was called Those Shoes. That was kind of like a pilot, and then the channel got canceled again twice.
Right.
So that didn't continue, but these opportunities kept cropping up.
So we'll keep an eye out for the new Guy Albino stuff coming out, and what else is happening in the animation world? Anything else you want to mention for the future? Or?
Yeah, well, I'm pitching a new show. I kind of can't talk about it. Like, I can't really like mention what it is. Just do a lot of commercial.
Can you call the new show Yak from Front?
What's that?
Can you call the new show Yak from Front?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I love that.
You could hear some additional conversation with Devin and with Eldon, and some extra music recommendations in the bonus episode. For $3, you get that, along with a multitude of exclusive interviews with people like Anti-Pop Consortium, New Kingdom, Sensational, Mike Ladd, Big Juss, Billy Woods, and many more. There's also exclusive music on the Patreon, including the never-released Stuffed Animals album, etc., etc. You can find this at patreon.com/weirdrap.
Previously on the Great Adventures of Kounterclockwise, Deacon and Kaya show up late to the recording session at Lava Sound Studios to find that Trey Thug, the biggest gangster rap group in Cleveland, had taken their slot. After they were thrown out of the recording studio, Deacon reveals to Kaya that he spent their money on the recording session they were just kicked out of. And then they meet the intergalactic bounty hunter Brother Creed, but have no idea that he is the one hunting Princess Lily. And now, the exciting conclusion of the Great Adventures of Kounterclockwise. Let the adventures begin.
Kenyatta, get us out of this room immediately! This just won't do! I will not seek refuge in such squalor! I want this pigsty cleaned immediately!
Look here, boo. I don't know who you think you is, but...
How dare you speak to me that way? You will address me in the proper meower. I am Princess Lily, future queen of Cactopia, daughter of Bandit, king of Cactopia, protector of the golden paw print, general of the great army of meow.
Well, look here, honey boo-boo. I'm Moo Cow, a.k.a. Lil Mama from 124th and Superior in East Cleveland. We don't play those games here, sugar. I'm about to show you how we do it here in Cleveland, boo.
Back up, Fleabag. Take one more step towards the princess and it'll be your last.
Your last? What? Y'all about to try to jump me? Oh, it's on now. Hey, Warlock, Emerald, Boots, Pretzel. We got company.
What it do?
Protect the princess at all costs.
I can fight my own battle.
Drink it, you high yellow heifer.
Kenyatta, front and center, soldier.
Well, let's not be so hasty, Samaya. Perhaps we can work something out with these Cleveland kiddies.
We definitely should approach this delicately, especially on this foreign front with no support.
Remember, we're here to seek refuge until we can reach our allies.
I'm quite aware of the situation on Catopia. There's no need to remind me.
Soldier.
But if they're looking for a fight, they've just found
Let's
it.
fight!
No, she didn't.
You want to go to war? Big Warlock, take you.
Taking a rope, Warlock. You call out chopsticks.
Oh yeah, time to bring out the big gun.
Y'all in trouble now.
Your chopsticks. Hit him up with that Kung Fu hustle. Bruce Lee, Bruce Lee, Jet Li, Jackie Chan, Jim Kelly, and the Riz after he had his arms cut off, then had them replaced with those armed fists, my cat.
Y'all in trouble now.
お前の当てどれだ勝負だ絶対に守る
Yeah, what he said. I'm about to show you how we do in Cleveland, little pussy. Get him.
What the fuck is going on? Y'all break this shit up. Warlock, get your fat ass in the room and let me see motherfuckers get in Deacon's room. I ain't got time for this motherfucking shit. These motherfucking cats out here fighting shit, getting on my motherfucking nerves. Ugh.
Damn feline savages. I just pray that the SOS message the princess sent reach King Bandit in time.
Meanwhile, back at Catopia.
Are all of the counselors present?
No, sire.
Is there yet word from my daughter?
No, sire, no contact.
How are the barricades holding? Have they broken through?
No, sire, the defenses are holding, but the enemy is gaining ground by the second. You must speak to your people. They need your encouragement.
I will address the people as soon as I have word with my council. General Hafer, are the barricades on the outer perimeter still holding?
No, sire! We got our backs pushed up against the wall. We're all the way back in the capital. Half of the territories out there are burned to the ground. Buildings for everything they're worth. The citizens are dead. Right to the ground.
General Warhunger, how did they so easily bypass our defenses without us knowing?
My king, we have discovered that the defense satellites have been manually switched off. Must have been an inside job.
My generals, bring your troops to the rear of the castle and form a united front. And find that traitor and bring him to me! My king, we're running out of time and your people are running out of hope. You need to address your subjects. They're beginning to fight and riot out of fear in the town square. Please, great king, you must speak to the people before they form an angry mob. Very well. We will postpone the war council until I speak to my people.
King Bandit, we've just received word from the princess. She's crash landed on a planet called Cleveland. She seeks refuge
my people. Now is the time for neither deceit nor distrust. We must trust counterclockwise, and you must trust me. We can win. We will win. We will defend our power. They want us dead, but we will not give them the satisfaction. The Draconians have not succeeded. The creeps have not succeeded. Their union means nothing. We are one and all Catopians, and this is our home!
Yo, this episode of The Great Adventures of Kounterclockwise was sponsored by
A man of God by day.
In nomine Patri, et Filii, Spiritus Sancti.
Punisher by night. Emilio Montoya. Such a pleasure to meet you. Forgive my intrusion.
Don Epifanio.
He's a man of the cloth, and that cloth is bulletproof.
God forgives. I don't.
Greg Matthews is Bulletproof Preacher, coming soon this Christmas.
All right, that's the end. Thank you for listening. Feel free to send feedback or recommendations to weirdrap3000@gmail.com. If you really want to help me out, it would be much appreciated, because this endeavor, this weird rap thing, it's not getting the attention it deserves. Not to toot my own horn here, but what we're doing is special. If you're listening, maybe you realize that. And it's just sorely overlooked, this podcast, the social media, all the articles and all the crap I do under Weird Rap. It could use some help by your clicks and your likes and your reviews. If you would go to weirdrap.com/rating, RATING, that is a great place where you can easily click around and help us out with the algorithms for free. I've been your host, The Mole. Till next time.